Hey, welcome back to this YouTube channel. My name is Salvador Briggman, and on today's video, we are getting into Indiegogo campaign tricks and tips for success. So if you're thinking about or even in the midst of launching an Indiegogo campaign, and you're wondering really, how do you make the most of your time on the platform? How do you be wildly successful and blow past your goal when it comes to your Indiegogo campaign? Maybe you're doing something like you've invented a new product or a gadget or a gizmo, and you want to get this out there to the world, or even something like a comic book or a card game. It could be a tabletop, and you want to use crowdfunding as a way to not only have an injection of cash, but also to build a brand from scratch. That's what we will be talking about in today's YouTube video, regardless of the stage which you're at, whether that's the idea stage, maybe you already have the prototype, or you're already even shipping the product. You can use the Indiegogo campaign platform. So let's get into some of these tips and techniques for success. By the end of this video, I want you to walk away with not only confidence, but armed with some of the tools and techniques that you can use to be more successful. And I love putting out quality education like this to people just like you. I've been doing this since 2012, where I got started in the industry with my blog, CrowdCrux. And actually, if we go back into the history of crowdfunding, Indiegogo was really the first global crowdfunding platform. It came even before Kickstarter. So Indiegogo kind of pioneered the concept of crowdfunding. They've done that quite interestingly and elegantly with rewards-based crowdfunding. Now, over the years, a lot of statistics have been gathered that we're able to use to actually improve our success rates on the platform. But I've also had thousands of coaching students. I've had over 500 guests come on my podcast, Crowdfunding Demystified. And what I'm sharing with you right now is what's going to kind of help you put your best foot forward. But in some ways, it also might fly in the face of some of the more common sense ways that we think about promoting something. For example, my dad always had this saying of KISS, which I think is keep it simple, silly. If you know what it actually stands for, leave it in the comments down below. But he had this saying of keep it simple, right? When it comes to Indiegogo, I love that advice. However, we also have to keep in mind that this is really a marketing exercise. So gone are the days where you can just throw up a campaign, keep it really simple, and get funding when it comes to the Indiegogo platform. Instead, nowadays, you have to be very conscious of the marketing behind the campaign. When it comes to marketing, which is something I'm really passionate about, right? Marketing is all about repetition. It's all about storytelling. It's all about making an emotional impact with your product, with your project, with your invention, and really connecting with an audience that maybe has never met you before, so you can get strangers to back your campaign. So my first advice or tip is that, number one, you gotta have a rock star pitch video on that Indiegogo campaign page. It shouldn't be too long. It should be simple, but also reiterate the functions, the features, the benefits of your product, and tells the story behind the brand. And why is that so important? Because these people have never met you before. And if you want people to back your campaign and even support the creation of a product, they have to understand the value behind that when it comes to your brand. In addition, one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen so many of my coaching students make is that they'll think that just because they have a great video, that sort of the selling or the marketing stops there. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You want to use the actual Indiegogo campaign page as an opportunity to reiterate some of the major points that you've made and some of the things you've called out when it comes to your project, and really reiterate that on the actual Indiegogo campaign page. So you almost want to assume that people haven't even watched the video, or maybe they only watched 50% of that, and use the campaign page as an opportunity to market and to sell them. So I almost think of this as over-explaining. So you want to go through all the different features and benefits and what the product's made of and why you made it and the sketches and the iterations, right? It should feel almost like a little bit too long. Like you're gonna reach out to me or email me and be like, Sal, I don't know, this feels like a little bit long. Should it be this long when it comes to my Indiegogo page? I'm telling you, you're really making a page for multiple different customer types. Some people might scan to the section that they're most interested in. Some people might only read a small portion of that page. Other people, maybe something like the specs is holding them back and they want to see more detailed information. So you're really getting a couple of different customer types. So you got to have, number one, a pitch video that's going to make an emotional impact. And number two, you got to have a campaign page that really expands on that video with GIFs, images, copy, and gets someone excited. Number two, the next tip that I have for you in this video is to be mindful of the actual project stage when it comes to Indiegogo campaigns. So you can launch under many different stages with Indiegogo. That could be an idea stage. That could be you already have the prototype and you're raising money for more of the manufacturing. It could also be that you're already producing this product and you're really using the Indiegogo campaign and the platform of Indiegogo itself more as a marketplace to sell that product. So there are different ways in which you can launch, and to be mindful of the stage in which you're launching, because that's really going to set the expectations for what backers are going to want. So for example, if you're closer to the shipping stage, they're going to want to know when are they going to be receiving those products and which territories as well. Are there any additional costs which they need to know about? And how can you really verify that this is something you are going to be able to ship out? If you're more in the prototype stage, they're going to want to see functionality, designs, iterations. They're going to want to also get a sense more of your brand, because they're going to be helping you move that from just the prototype stage to more of the mass production stage. So they want to feel like they're part of it. They want to feel like they're part of your community. And if you're in the idea stage, you got to be very clear about how it is you're going to get to the next stage and how you're going to involve the backers in that particular process. So my tip number two is to be mindful of the stage in which you're in. And that's a little bit different than their competitor Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is much more for people that are just in the prototype stage, but it also depends on the category as well. So I want to talk about a tactic, and that tactic comes down to your perks and your rewards. So if you're not familiar, when people back Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaigns or any really crowdfunding campaign based on the rewards-based side, they will get access to exclusive perks and rewards. And this is really one of the major reasons why people back Indiegogo campaigns. So my technique here, number one, is that you want to make use of what's called the MSRP, or the manufacturer suggested retail price. So when there's a kind of a gap, if you will, between what you're making this available for on Indiegogo and the retail price, it makes people more excited to actually back the campaign because they're getting a little bit of a deal. So you want to be mindful of what you're charging or what you're projecting to charge when it comes to retailers versus what you're actually giving the deal of when it comes to the Indiegogo back. Number two, you gotta include images on those Indiegogo campaign perks, because images sell a product like nothing else I've seen before. And that's really where we're moving when it comes to this social media, internet-driven world. We gotta have images on those actual Indiegogo perks. And also you can have add-ons as well. So after someone backs your campaign, they select a perk, then you might then decide have an add-on, which is going to increase the overall order value when they check out with your Indiegogo campaign. There are also some other really cool things which you can include when it comes to your Indiegogo perks. So for example, you could do volume-based discounts, which is very unique to Indiegogo, and as well as secret perks, which is also unique to Indiegogo. So really interesting techniques and tactics which you can use to give that marketing element of exclusivity, of urgency, and also making someone feel like they're getting a little bit of a deal, something that's behind the scenes and insider access when it comes to your brand and your product. Now I know that marketing is not something that everyone loves to do. So what I actually did was I just downloaded all this information that I've accumulated over the last 10 years when it comes to successful crowdfunding campaigns, and I put it into one slender, actionable volume. This isn't like a theory or a textbook or something you got to really sink your teeth into. This is something that's slim and actionable, and this is what I call the Kickstarter launch formula. This is available on Amazon, on Audible, and also if you want to, you can get the paperback version on Amazon as well. So I'm going to link down below if you want to check out the Kickstarter launch formula, and I also have sections there on Indiegogo as well. So if you really want to have the paint by numbers blueprint behind launching a successful Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign, the Kickstarter launch formula is a great place to start, and you can listen to that on the go and have me read in my passionate way, right, as you're going out there and you're commuting to work or you're going to the gym. That's a great way to download that information into your head. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The top campaigns use this trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. Now, there have been a lot of really interesting changes that have been happening at Indiegogo, specifically within the last year or two. And what I see is that if you want a little bit of a scoop, Indiegogo is moving much more towards the e-commerce side of the equation when it comes to crowdfunding. And we've noticed that not only with the launch of their indie shop, but also with the fact that they're almost having a verified shipping for select campaigns where they're giving the backers a shipping guarantee. So if you really want to build a track when it comes to e-commerce and sell online, this could be a good opportunity to do that. But in addition, and I've just noticed this on my own, snooping around the Indiegogo platform, is that they are A/B testing a lot as well, even the placement of the rewards. In fact, compared to their competitor Kickstarter, if you go to even to the homepage, what you'll notice first of all is that they really highlight the price of the product and the discount much more than how much has been funded when it comes to that Indiegogo campaign. So we're seeing a lot more movements towards e-commerce, and specifically the biggest one that you can see is likely the Indie Shop. So I could talk about this all day and sort of like behind the scenes stuff, but I do want to stay on topic here, and that's with Indiegogo tips and tricks. And one of the Indiegogo tips that I think you should be mindful of if you're doing a campaign, and if you're not, you're just missing out and you're saying no to money, right? It's a no to cash. You got to be mindful of this term, which I'm going to throw out right now, and that's the Indiegogo go-go factor algorithm. So if you're not familiar with that, this is a great opportunity to begin to learn, but the go-go factor algorithm, and also Kickstarter has one as well, the go-go factor algorithm really just determines the ranking within the marketplace of Indiegogo. And that's really why we go to platforms like Indiegogo, is that they have a marketplace of regular people that are backing crowdfunding campaigns. So if you want to soar in the charts and you want to get people to check out your actual Indiegogo campaign, you got to understand the Indiegogo go factor algorithm, which very heavily relies on velocity of funding. But there are also other variables as well. For example, social media sharing, time spent on page, the new people that are coming in. There's a lot of different elements that go beyond the scope of this video, and I do have an article on this as well. I'll try to link that up in the show notes, but it's also something that I cover in my free course on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I have a free course out there that walks you through step-by-step how to launch one of these campaigns. All you gotta do is enter your name and email, so I'll also link up my free course down below. But with the go-go factor algorithm, the best thing that you can do is to plan to trigger this sucker when you are going live. So you should really plan and engineer your success here when it comes to your launch. Even just asking a couple of friends and family to back your campaign on day one is going to be an incredible way to begin to trend in the charts on Indiegogo. And in addition, then the Indiegogo platform knows that if they share that with more strangers on their platform, that it's going to be well received. So my point here is not just about the go-go factor algorithm, but be mindful of the functionality at your disposal with Indiegogo, because with Indiegogo, you can also do other things as well. You can do fixed versus flexible funding. And your funding choice is also going to dictate how you trigger the algorithm as well. So fixed versus flexible funding, just to give you a quick example there, with flexible funding, if you had a $10,000 goal and you only raised $8,000, you could still keep those funds. But with a fixed funding goal, if you had a $10,000 fixed funding goal, you got to hit or exceed that amount, which is very similar to their competitor Kickstarter, also known as keep what you raise. So to give you a quick example here, fixed versus flexible funding, if you had a $10,000 goal with flexible funding, if you only got to $8,000, you could still keep those funds which you have raised, versus with fixed funding, you really got to hit or exceed that 10,000 number. So really, you're only going to have all or nothing funding, which is very similar to the competitor, which is Kickstarter. Some of the other functions that you should be aware of are the analytics that are at your disposal within the Indiegogo dashboard. In addition, there are a little bit of pre-launch functionalities within Indiegogo. I still don't think it's necessarily that good, to be honest, but they are working on that as a new function and a new tool, which they're continuing to kind of, upgrade as they go. But there's so much functionality within the Indiegogo dashboard itself that you should really poke around and just be aware of what's at your disposal. I can't tell you the number of people who have booked a coaching call with me who are not aware. I've never even started the Indiegogo campaign yet. Under this topic of functionality, there are so many little features and functions within the Indiegogo dashboard which can be quite useful for you. For example, just able to integrate things like Google Analytics and Facebook ads, being able to even do some minor elements of functionality when it comes to doing a little bit of a pre-launch. If you don't want to do it professionally, this is a great option to go and just learn a little bit more about that. There's so many tools that you may or may not be aware of, and just starting a campaign, poking around and taking a look at the functionality is really going to help supercharge your project because you have more tools at your disposal. Number 5 in my tips and techniques when it comes to this video is to be mindful of what's called the Indiegogo in-demand marketplace. So there are different stages when you're launching a crowdfunding campaign, and one of the ones is the post-crowdfunding stage. So after you've had a successful campaign, you've done what I teach on this YouTube channel, you've listened to my podcast, and you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds great, and you go out there, you actually take action, and you're successfully funded, you then move into the post-crowdfunding phase. And one of the things you should be aware of in that phase is Indiegogo in demand. And here's the reason why. I've literally had clients that have doubled the amount that they raise with crowdfunding just by entering Indiegogo In Demand. So Indiegogo In Demand, you'll actually pay a smaller fee versus if you entered In Demand from another platform. So it's a great option. And all you do is you can basically continue the sale. You can continue the campaign, or you can extend it and maybe in some way have some unique rewards or unique aspect when it comes to that campaign. So for example, you could run a traditional Indiegogo campaign for maybe like 30 days and then enter Indiegogo In Demand for another 30 days and pick up more funding, more backers, and more pledges. Plus, you already have the social proof of having run a successful campaign already on Indiegogo. And that brings me to my next point, which is Indiegogo now has a launching soon page, which is quite exciting. I still do think it's kind of in the early stages, in getting started with that launching soon page. But if you enter their launching soon section and you actually publish that on Indiegogo, you can begin to be seen by backers before you go live, which I think is pretty exciting. And one of the things that I'm always trying to do is get more attention to really projects that are noteworthy. Those that have creators that believe in this. They're not just trying to do like a cash grab, but they're really trying to impact the world for the positive. And maybe they have a great product idea, or they have something really interesting they're working on, like a comic book or a music album or whatever it is, and they believe in that, but they just need a little bit of help getting it out there. And that's one of the things that I really dedicated my life to, which is helping creators just like you go step by step through this process. And if you need just a little bit of help, you want to dot your I's and cross your T's. You want to make sure you do this launch right. You want to set a strong foundation for success. And you know that there are certain elements that you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know going into a campaign launch. This is a great option to go down below and to learn more about my individual one-on-one coaching call option, because you, after watching this video, can go down below, you can click that link, and you can actually book an individual one-on-one coaching call with me. So we can use that call not only to plot out your launch to a T, but also to go over, is this even the right platform for you? How should you go about launching this campaign? What are the odds like when it comes to your specific category or your specific product for success? And more importantly, what are some of the tools, techniques, and things that you can employ that are unique to your specific case in order to be more successful? So if you want to learn more about that, go at that link down below at crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. You can go there, tell me just a little bit about you, your project, what you're working on, and we can get that call scheduled ASAP. Again, at that link in the description at crowdcrux.com/coaching. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and at least you have a little bit more insight going into the launch of your campaign. And just keep watching videos like this. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy this, and just keep cranking. Keep downloading that information in your head. Be like a sponge as you're going through this process, because even just one little technique that you employ can have a massive difference when you go live. And one successful crowdfunding campaign can literally change your life. It can start a brand from scratch overnight, and it can be the beginning of this massive snowball, which allows you to do cool things, even have a career-changing shift in your life, to be able to grow a business that feeds your family, that allows you to employ other people, and to really just show up at a much higher level and maybe actually enjoy what you do while also making a positive impact. My name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.